When I hear about the infrastructure project in about 26 countries, it makes me sleep better that day.
It was my experience of AFC Live 2017 was really a great one.
AFC Live, to me, is one of those business events that someone should always find time if you want to engage with potential investors.
I think AFC has successfully positioned themselves as a leading player in the infrastructure space, bringing in both public and private sector players.
The large number of African indigenous developers that participated, our partner institutions, your FMOs, your DEGs, your electors, are all very interested.
I want to see in the next 10 years AFC being the most important driving force in the area of infrastructure and manufacturing in Africa.
It's a great thing to get to 10 years. I think most businesses trying to invest in infrastructure across Africa, creating a new type of organization, was always going to be an uphill battle. So we're very grateful that we've got here. We're very happy with all the successes that we've had. We've been able to have a large impact on a large number of people in many countries across Africa. We've successfully been able to invest in over 25 countries. We've put over $4.5 billion to work. I'm very proud of how we've been able to get there. So we've been able to operate, as a world-class organization. We've been able to get the same sort of credit rating as other people outside the continent. And that has enabled us to do things like access the international financial markets.
We're now the second highest rated institution on the continent after the African Development Bank. We have an A3 rating from Moody's. We are in 28 African countries. We have 14 member states. We've declared dividend every year for the past 5 years to our shareholders. We've been doing very well.
I know the transactions simply take a long period of time. It has to be right and reasonable for that risk to be rewarded for developers.
So let's remember why we're all doing project finance. At the end of the day, yes, of course, we need to get paid, but we want to build the infrastructure that this continent so much needs.
There are 4 things that make a system work in this world. The first
for 30 seconds.
All right, we'll make it 3 then. You need a developer. You need the developer. And you need the developer. Thank you.
The session we just had really was AFC trying to provide, if you like, a forum where lenders can come and put developers. The issue at heart for Africa infrastructure development has been the fact that a lack of bankable projects. So in essence, we've been trying to find how we can scale up more developers in Africa. Developers always tell you, I don't want to come into this business because essentially the risk I'm taking, the lenders don't allow me, in fact, the commensurate level of fees. What this discussion today was all about was, look, what should be the fees? When should it be paid? Who, how justified are these? How can it be sustainable? And so for the first time, we've had this very healthy, passionate, sometimes as you may have had, but very interesting debate.
How many visions have been dead on arrival or even before arrival? But here is one. It's a vision, it's a hope, it's expectation, and it materializes. So what can you do? Feel fulfilled, feel satisfied, and feel that, well, it can be done, and it is being done.
A vision without execution is nothing but hallucination. AFC is proof of Africa's self-belief. And when we self-believe and we will start working, it can be done.
There is a lot of opportunity for infrastructural development in Africa, and I believe only Africans can truly realize that opportunity and take advantage of that opportunity. Just it's a very fantastic forum, to bring the investors and project developers in the same room.
Wonderful day so far. Catching up with old friends, also meeting new people, and also getting to hear a lot about what's going on in Africa.
Unless corporations like the AFC recognize what is important to do in these times, the next 10 years will indeed be very, very difficult years for our own economies, for African economies indeed. We'll be relying on the AFCs, especially our own DFIs, to do much more. We'll be relying on them to show much more leadership and to take greater risks. There's no question at all that all of what we require, all of what is needed, will not be provided just by governments. As a matter of fact, it is very clear that governments cannot finance the huge infrastructure needs of most countries.
I'd like, if I may, ask all of you to paint a picture of what is happening in your respective countries to bridge the infrastructure gap, because it's a race against time. And I will start with the Honourable Minister from Uganda, sir.
Thank you very much. As a Pan-Africanist, there are other two gaps which we should bear in mind every time we talk about infrastructure. One is the question of peace on the continent. The other one is integration. Because you can't talk about infrastructure until and unless those are in place. So when we are discussing these issues, I pray that we keep that back at the back of our mind.
there is a need for us to think about how do we structure domestically denominated facilities where currency shocks do not really impact on repayment and the performance of those facilities.
I think we're going to be talking about the viability of renewable energy projects in sub-Saharan Africa, why we don't see more renewable energy projects, what are their benefits, what are the impediments to more scale up of projects, etc. So very much looking forward to it.
There have been so many highlights. I think the panel on the founding of AFC and some of the thoughts that went into how we were founded was very interesting and important to me, because it's really important to go back to where you started from time to time, check in and see if you're really achieving what you were supposed to achieve.
If all these go well, I see an AFC that in the next 10 years will have tripled or quadrupled its investment.
A public target.
Investment in infrastructure in Africa. I see an AFC that will become a household name everywhere in Africa.
We at AFC, I say we, after 19 years, you've got to change that. I've seen how management has worked out. Look at the rating of AFC. AAA rating, an African institution domiciled here in Nigeria. And if you listen to what Professor Soludo said about the Eurobond, massively oversubscribed, being able to attract best talent, human capital from across the world.
The African capital leading the way, and the rest of the world coming. And also a platform for much of the Africa's capital wealth, 40% of it abroad, to begin to come home to create a new Africa.
Both the private and the public sector and civil society all have a role to play. On the private sector, they have a role in terms of designing the infrastructure, mobilizing capital, and operating and maintaining the infrastructure. Civil society have a role to also support development, recognize that sometimes development does come with a cost and sometimes development is uncomfortable, but there is a bigger purpose. Governments have a very active role to play to support sectors that are necessary to make infrastructure development happen, like construction sectors, IT sectors, employment sectors. All of these come together around the infrastructure theme.
The role we like to believe we play is really that ability to work with governments, to work with the private sector, and more importantly, to work with the global DFIs and the global investors and bring them onto a platform where projects can actually be made to happen. So in many ways, we see ourselves as an enabler, a facilitator, a project developer, an advisor, and then an investor.
The CEO and President of AFC, Mr. Andrew Ali.
The legacy that AFC leaves and will leave behind is not only the physical structures of roads, power and manufacturing plants, oil and gas processing facilities, but also the human capacity it develops and is developing the socio-economic change it has driven and in some instances led, the communities it has enriched, the economies it has contributed to through direct and indirect development, the partnerships, the footprints it has made across the continent, and above all, the social dividend it has given back to civil society across this continent we call Africa.
We spent across Africa so many years trapped in a world of poor telecoms infrastructure. And until country after country got it and realized that look, open this thing up to the private sector. And all of a sudden, we've had billions of dollars roll into Africa. And Africa in certain countries operates with telecoms infrastructure that's as robust as anywhere you find.
The private sector is actually coming to government to demand government support to help de-risk these projects. We see this firsthand.
Some strong salvos being fired there. It's a chance for you to fire yours, or at least fire your questions in this direction. Let's take a few questions to try to stress test some of those arguments there.
If the public sector continues to be in a tussle with the private sector about who provides funding, how can the public sector properly play the role?
It's not that we think that the private sector has no role, but you just need us to enable it happen. And so we're having a debate, we are not disagreeing, and there is no tussle. I think that's the word she used. Because I think the reason why they always need government is that there are things that only government can do.
So, I want to agree with Andrew that what we don't need is a multiplicity of underfunded institutions in the infrastructure space. We need critical mass.
Electricity sector working on moving and letting the equivalent on this.
Multilateralism is not what it used to be. Who's going to pay for peacekeepers? Who's going to support the UN? How about the World Health Organization? Who's going to uphold principles of global trade? The answer is those organizations are going to get weaker. That certainly provides opportunities for a country like Nigeria, a country like Kenya, others to do more regionally, more in their backyard. But you're also going to have to.
I give credit to the president for believing in me and saying, go ahead.
Really, he is a man of ideas, and I will say that.
For the team, the steering committee members that we put together, that also worked tirelessly with us, and to all those who helped to organize all the road shows all around the world as we went. And today, we can see that that vision is likely on track. It's catalyzing, achieving the goals. When I hear about the infrastructure project in about 26 countries, it makes me sleep better that day. When you hear over $4 billion, some power project, affecting some 30 million people, that's my own benefit. What gives me joy is seeing the difference that it is now making in the lives of tens of millions of Africans.
Our key message to people who may be watching this video is really that AFC over the last 10 years has shown that investing in infrastructure in Africa as an asset class can be and is actually a profitable thing to do. And whether you're investing in African infrastructure through AFC, with AFC, or independently of AFC, we would encourage you to do so, because it's really a win-win situation. There's a funding gap, but there are also good returns to be made.